Imagine you have an alien butler, very smart, very capable, but has absolutely no idea how anything on Earth works. And you want him to get you a beer from the fridge. That sounds simple, right? Well, it's not.
Hey, can you grab me a beer from the fridge? Sir, I am unfamiliar with the substance designated beer. Could you elaborate on its properties? It's a drink, cold, in a can, kind of telical. It's in the fridge, the big silver box opens at the top. A cold pressurized beverage in an aluminum vessel, stored in the cooling unit. Yeah, exactly that. Apologies, sir. What is a fridge?
And the reason it's not is exactly the same. Your AI-built app sometimes does things you didn't expect. So let me set this up properly. An alien race arrives on Earth and they want to study humanity. Their approach? They become our home servants. They are very smart, they can learn anything, but they have absolutely zero knowledge of human life. They don't know what a kitchen is, they don't know what a fridge is, they don't know what beer is. He is smart, but he's starting from zero. So you have to teach him step by step. First you teach him, the kitchen is the room with the stove. Okay, now he knows what a kitchen is. You've given a name to a concept. Then you teach him the fridge is the tall, cold box in the kitchen. Now he knows what a fridge is. Another name, another concept. Then, beer is the cold drink in the cans. Each time you're taking a complex idea and giving it a name. That name lets you build more complex instructions on top of it. You don't have to re-explain what a fridge is every time. You just say fridge and the alien knows. Okay, this is exactly what software actually is. A computer at the very bottom understands exactly one thing: electrical signals, ones and zeros. That's it. No concepts, no ideas, no fridge. Just, is there voltage on this wire or isn't? Everything else, everything you see on your screen, every app you use, every website you visit is built on top of that by doing exactly what we did with the alien, naming complex things so we can refer to them as single concepts and then building even more complex things on top of those names. This is called abstraction. And it is, I tell you, the single most important idea in all software. If you understand abstraction, you understand more about how software works than most people who've been coding for years. Not because it's complicated, it's really not, but because most people never stop to think about this. Let me show you what this looks like in practice. When you type a URL into your browser and hit enter, here is what actually happens in order. Your browser takes that URL and turns it into something called an HTTP request. That's a name concept, an abstraction. That HTTP request gets passed to something called TCP, another abstraction, which splits it into packets. These packets, small pieces of information, get passed to something called IP, another abstraction, which figures out where they need to go to the server. IP passes them to something called Ethernet or Wi-Fi, another abstraction, which turns them into actual electrical signals. That's 4 layers right there, and we haven't even left your computer yet. Every layer only talks to the one directly above it and directly below it. The HTTP layer doesn't know what Ethernet is. The Ethernet layer doesn't know what HTTP is. But they don't have to, that's the entire point. Okay, so software is layers of named abstractions. Each layer hides the complexity of the layers below it. HTTP hides TCP, TCP hides IP, IP hides the physical network. And at the top of this tower you have what? You have your browser, which just shows you a web page. You click a button and 5 to 10 layers of software do their thing before anything actually happens on the server. Now, here is where the alien analogy gets really important, and this is the part that matters most for vibe coding. Remember, I said the alien was smart but didn't know anything. Well, what if you explain fridge to him by saying, a fridge is something that just cools things down? That sounds reasonable, right? But the alien is very literal. He has no common sense about human life. So he builds you a fridge that cools everything down to near absolute zero. Because, technically speaking, that is something that cools things down. It's just not what you meant. You meant cool things down to around 5 degrees, not minus 270, right? This is exactly what happens when you give an AI an imprecise prompt. The AI is like the alien. It's very capable, it can generate code, but it doesn't know what you actually mean unless you say it precisely. And precision in software comes from understanding what each layer is supposed to do. If you don't understand the layers, you can't be precise. If you can't be precise, the AI will build you something that technically does what you asked, but does it wrong. A fridge that cools to absolute zero. A database that stores your data in plain text, visible to anyone on the internet. An API endpoint that accepts any request from anyone with no authentication. These aren't hypothetical, these are things that AI tools will cheerfully generate for you if you don't specify otherwise. And the reason they happen is the same reason the alien freezes your beer. The instructions were imprecise and the executor has no common sense. So, software is layers of abstraction. Each layer has a name, does a specific job, and hides all the complexity below it. And if you're going to work with AI to build software, you need to understand at least which layers exist, what each one is supposed to do, and this is the critical part, where each layer ends and the other one begins, because that's where bugs hide. Okay, now that we understand software as layers of abstraction, let me show you what a web application is, because it's really just a specific arrangement of those layers. A web application is software that runs across 2 or more machines connected by the internet. That's it. It's not magic, that's a fundamentally different kind of thing. It's just software that has been split up. Think about it like this. A desktop application, everything runs on your machine. Interface, logic, data, all of it. One computer, one program. It's simple. A web application splits that up. The part you see and interact with, the interface that runs on your machine in your browser. We call that the front end. The part that does the heavy lifting, the logic, the processing, data storage, that runs on a different computer somewhere else in the world. We call that the back end. And between them, the internet, the network, which is just a very reliable way for 2 computers to send messages back and forth. That's it. Let me give you another analogy, the restaurant analogy. You are the customer, that is the browser. You sit at a table, you look at a menu, you place an order. That's like typing a URL and hitting enter. The waiter, which is the network, takes your order to the kitchen. The kitchen, which is the back end, prepares your food, and then the waiter brings it back to you. That's the response coming back to your browser. That's it. You don't need to know how the kitchen works or who the chef is in order to order food. The kitchen doesn't know all the details about you to make you a dish. They communicate through the waiter, which is a well-defined interface. That's exactly how a web application works. Now, here is something that confuses a lot of people. A web application is not equal to a website. Or let me put it this way, a website can be a web application, but not all websites are. A static website, like a page that just shows information but has no interaction, that's just a bunch of files sitting on a server that gets sent to your browser. No logic, no processing, no database. A web application, on the other hand, it does things. You log in, you create an account, you save data, you interact with it. That requires a backend, a database, some business logic. That's a web application. And why does this distinction matter for vibe coding? Because when you tell an AI, build me a web app, it's going to generate all of these pieces, the front end, the back end, the database, the connections between them. And if you don't understand which is which, you literally cannot debug anything. Something goes wrong with the data, that's probably the database or the backend. Something goes wrong with how it looks, that's probably the front end. Something goes wrong with the connection between them, that's the network layer. You need to know where to look, and you cannot know where to look if you don't understand the map. Okay, so to recap what we have covered. Software is instructions that tell hardware what to do. We build complexity through abstraction, naming concepts so we can stack them. Each abstraction layer hides the one below it. The alien butler analogy shows why precision matters. Imprecise instructions lead to correct but wrong results. A web application is software split across machines. Front end in your browser, back end on the server. It's not magic, it's just 2 programs talking to each other through well-defined layers. In the next videos I'm going to make, we are going to go deeper into those layers, specifically the 3 layers that exist in every single web application: front end, back end, database. If you don't understand which is which, you can debug anything the AI builds for you. And I'm going to show you exactly how they connect together. If this kind of thinking is useful to you, the why behind the how, then you might want to subscribe to Aaron Bitwise Weekly. Each week I will pick one concept like this, something that took me years to fully understand, and explain it in 5 minutes. No padding, no hype, just the thing that actually matters. Link is in the description. I'll see you there.